Welcome out to another episode of Installment Check 4. This time, Power Play. Yeah, are we talking sports on Installment Check 4? It's happened before. It happens. Power Play. It's all been Check 4. Speaking of Power Play, do you know Power Play? It's all been in Radio Hour's 7th anniversary next Saturday, July 16th, Red Herring Theater. Get your tickets there. They're going to combine Scary Dad and the Porn Star Detectives. 180-minute extravaganza. 7th anniversary. Seven. They're 1/5 of the way to how much longer we're going to be here on Installment Check Before. But that's because it's a Power Play on Installment Check.
Welcome out to another episode of It's All Been Trekked Before. Your regular hosts are here.
This is Steven.
And Keith, I'm now live, as are we
Jimmy-Jerome. And we are here to talk the famous episode, Power Play. But before we do that, Keith missed the last couple episodes, so we're going to give him a couple minutes to talk about Violations and Masterpiece. Take it away, Keith.
Okay, so Masterpiece, when I actually remember, the Masterpiece Society, as I was saying, I liked that a lot more than I thought I would, as it started off, because this is, especially you had the suspicious guy at the beginning, meeting this closed bubble society, and it was like, oh no, outsiders, go away, we can't do this is so delicate, something's going to happen. So there were a few threads I would have wanted to pull on, one of which being, are they actually correct? Like, how precise was this actually done? And I mean, as far as their ecosystem, how fragile was it really? I mean, if these people leave, what is really going to happen? It seems like it ended up being more of a religious issue than anything. And I think they crafted a few things just to make up that moral quandary, which I appreciated. I mean, the result of it, even if there were some things that kept distracting me. One of the things I thought would have been amusing too, actually, is he's talking about poets, they flash on a little concert they're having down there on the planet. And I'm wondering, so is this the best musician in the world? Is there that kind of pressure for them? You've been born to do this, so I guess you're going to be the best possible thing. And it's just, they get writer's block. How do they stack up to people off world? Just things like that. Yeah, I liked the way that those things unfolded. I think there was a run of things where they were not making things too easy as far as the way that they were discussing them. And so that's probably enough for the moment. Because I should have written things down, but yesterday I'm thinking, oh, sure, I'll be fine. Wait, can I
where they lose their memories?
Yes. Okay. So that was not one of the ones we just did.
I thought you were just playing along, Keith, as if you had also lost your memory. I couldn't remember.
No, that just happens all the time. No, that was fun too. I really liked that one. It was a fun science one. They actually had me going for a little bit. It was like, wait a minute, McDuff? Do I know him? Maybe I missed something, and the way that the things were crafted in the ship's data banks to have just the right amount of story that they needed to, or backstory they needed to convince them to do that. You kind of feel this is what must be happening. We're going to have a couple of these episodes in a row. It seems like where Data seems to be more vulnerable than you would expect him to be, more similarly humanly susceptible to things, which they don't delve into maybe as much as they could, but I'm sure that's not the point of whatever the episode is. But it seems like, why not explain away him, not being present or just deactivated, or I don't know. That's a longer story. But summarizing, I liked it fine. So I don't know how that will affect the ranking at whatever point, but.
Well, we were relying on you to make a tiebreaker decision because we had Conundrum and Masterpiece ranked side by side. We couldn't decide which one was better. We put them together. We just couldn't pick.
That is what do you call it? A pickle.
I see what you did there.
God, I can see why they would be similar in certain ways as far as. So what are they surrounded by at this point?
Well, we ranked them they're going to be number 9 and 10. So they're both right below Darmok and right above A Matter of Time. We just couldn't decide.
Darmok was this season?
Yeah.
Oh, man, it just sounds like a lifetime ago.
We just couldn't decide which one was which.
It's a matter of time that makes you think that Darmok was so long ago.
Yeah. Damn it. I'm gonna say Masterpiece was better.
Masterpiece was better? Okay. Then that is decided. Everybody hold your Masterpiece.
some of my reasoning is that they at least had more going on as far as extras and sets and the scope of the discussion.
Okay. I mean, it's like I said, we couldn't decide, so we didn't feel super strongly one way or the other. So we will let you make that decision. So now let's get to this episode, Power Play. First impressions. Tell me about them.
Well, first of all, my first impulse was to think of this reductively as it was when we saw that Masterpiece is going to be one of those bubble societies and no off-worlders, that sort of thing. This is a distress call that they can't get through because of the sensors and some other thing, the interference. And so they're already building up. We're going to have to go there in person to do something and investigate. Mm-hmm. And so beyond that, I don't really have a lot of notes on this one. I think it was fine for what it was, as I said, in that category. It didn't seem to break free from that formula well enough for me to say, well, it redeemed itself because of that. But I'll let it go from there.
Yeah, I thought I had more fun. I think I did have fun watching it. It's one of my main notes, but I think it's just because, for lack of a better term, the three sweetest characters had got to be evil. And I think that made it a fun episode. I don't know, it made it a great episode. And yeah, that's a great point, Keith, that we've had these before. It's a distress. We all know, we know there's going to be some issue. I mean, that's why it's an episode. But it's one we've had before. It's a distress call. There's an issue. Well, we should beam down, even though it's going to be hard to get those people down there. It's going to be tricky, but let's do it. And I'll get more into that later too. But
and also they're being habitated, so. Yeah,
and the hostage situation, as far as those go, it wasn't Dog Day Afternoon, but I was engaged nonetheless. I'm not going to have a parade for this one, but I enjoyed watching it.
Yeah, that's about how I felt. It was fine. It was an episode of Star Trek. It was enjoyable. Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say it's super novel or super anything. It just was.
Can the producers quote you on that?
Sure.
The quote unquote, it was an episode of Star Trek. End quote.
It says Jimmy-Jerome.
Yeah.
Well, to be fair, that's the way all the Wikipedias begin. Power Play is the 115th episode of the American science fiction television series Star Trek: The Next Generation. So really, it's very similar.
It is. Yeah. I mean, I just don't feel strongly about it one way or the other. I think I liked it. I enjoyed watching it because we hadn't watched Star Trek in almost 2 months. And I've watched some Discovery and Prodigy since then, but we haven't done this podcast, Peek Behind the Curtain, since early November, and here we are right before New Year's Eve. So it's like, oh, good, I missed these characters. We got Keiko, we got O'Brien, we got some Ro, liking all that. But as far as the story itself, it wasn't one of their strongest ones.
Yeah, I think you're right, Jimmy. Because we talked pre-show in the green room, and I was like, yeah, do I know how to do this still? And I think that's part of it too, that it came back to me that it was like, oh, there's Ro, oh, there's Troy being evil, this is cool, this is kind of fun, and I guess, for lack of a better term, being reintroduced to these characters after, I know it's only 2 months, but still. For
me, I still had the same break, but maybe a little longer than you from having watched it, but then I also watched the other two before this. So those are some decent episodes back to back, and then I get to this, and so I was a little more burnt out, I suppose, on what was going on than it made them seem a little less impressive.
I think we talked about that even though we ranked those number 9 and 10 of the season, we really liked them. That's just an estimate to how strong the season's been.
Yeah.
That we're this far. I mean, we were 14 episodes in and we were ranking those number 9 and 10. Yeah. So that tells you anything. These probably a little lower than number 9 and 10, but we'll see.
I wrote down, is this the most generic title we've had? And then an hour, and then when I realized what the episode we're watching next week, I'm like, no, it's not the most generic title we're gonna have. Maybe to this point it is, but it's not after next week.
It seems like it does seem like an odd one to settle on for what was going on in the plot. This is not something that would tell me. I wouldn't guess even close to what was going on or matching the episodes together if I had to think back next week, which we're probably going to have to do eventually. So
we will. We have to think back to the 14 episodes we watched before that.
Oh man.
So we start out with everyone wants to phone in the group project except Troy, because they're all like, we're looked, nobody's here. Troy's like, I know somebody's here. They're like, yeah, but we don't see anything, so we're leaving. I was like, yeah, no, that's every group project ever.
Wait, before you move on.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, and I worded this purposely this way. I said, what is the range of Troy's powers?
I wrote down Troy greater than the ship's sensors once again.
But I mean,
they're both very illusory. They're hard to pin down what their range is, and it comes and goes depending on the situation. I
don't know why it didn't occur to me before this, but it just struck me this one time that she's all the way in orbit and can sense down to the planet's surface, or even if they're like ship to ship, that's not really very close. When they do that all the time, like they'd have to be on a view screen. I mean, they're not like in the same room, so I don't know.
And at the other end of the spectrum is Picard, who's like, well, I guess mystery solved. Let's move on to our next adventure. He's like, well, wrap it up. And then she's like, whoa.
Have we seen that three-seat shuttle before that they took down?
I was wondering too. I couldn't. I was going to stop and blow it up, but I didn't. The shuttle just said Enterprise. They didn't put it. There wasn't I couldn't see a name on it.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
Yeah, because the way they crashed, the door was open and covering it. So
this is the shuttle Campbell, according to Memory Alpha.
Campbell. Okay.
For next gen, we've seen the like really tiny shuttles that just like had data in it, and we've seen some of the bigger shuttles, and we've seen ones where like there's only two people driving, but there's a back compartment. I feel like this is yet another new shuttle, and I love that they have so many different shuttles, because you wouldn't think like, oh, we're gonna have the same cars in the garage. You need to have different ones for different purposes.
It never even occurred to me that they would
had the giant like booth seat in a restaurant that Troy was sitting on, and they say, and we've talked about the lack of seatbelts from TOS through TNG. Although TNG, I think they do have seatbelts on the bridge. We talked about, but they say brace for impact, and Troy essentially just makes a face to brace for impact. Sure. She doesn't assume a position. She doesn't move at all. She just makes a face.
The shaking of that shuttle was like real janky. Like it really looked like they were just like turning the camera or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, she actually is like Jean Grey, and she's using her telekinetic powers to brace herself.
And the shuttle.
Yes.
Well, and to go back to Picard being like, well, I think mystery solved, and then they're not sure they want to do it, blah, blah, blah. So they send three of the most crucial people into this dangerous situation.
And the door of the shuttle when they crash is broken. You can see it broken, that it's like slightly ajar, but not off. So instead they blow out the back, which, man, that was an explosion of that hatch that went flying. That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
I was wondering why they needed to beam O'Brien down. I mean, we've seen in Discovery and stuff that they have little drones on the ship. Obviously, that was a time much before this,
right?
But also made way after. But I feel like you could beam down the equivalent of a drone or some type of, even if you're not sure that they're going to see it and you're having trouble talking to them, beam down something with a big freaking flashing light. I mean, I guess time was of the essence, and so beaming him down was quicker than other options. But when it's that dangerous, I feel like you don't risk another crewman. You just beam down.
Yeah. Again, and another important crewman, and I like that LaForge is like, yeah, it's 50-50, and Picard's like, let's do it. So I think Picard was a little hesitant, but he's like, O'Brien, what do you think? And he's like, I can do it. Okay, fine then. Yeah, which I guess is trusting in your people, but yeah.
Yeah, at this point, I think we've established, even though O'Brien is just chief, and for some reason still wearing the lieutenant pips. I guess that happens all through Next Gen before they get rid of the pips for DS9. But he's called chief. We've seen him a lot. I think we're supposed to take for granted that all the lead characters know him and are good with him at this point and have relationships with him. Then we see the little glowy lights that, of course, as soon as you saw them, you're like, they're going to possess them because we've seen that before.
And
it skipped Riker, and I wrote down at that point, why? Just because he has a broken arm, which of course ended up being the reason it skipped him.
Oh, okay. I thought he just started to wake up, so I was like, I don't want to go in here. Okay, that makes sense.
They're like, this one's defective, and yet somehow, and this I really don't understand, they possessed an android.
Yeah, I was very distracted already during this episode. I'm finding I missed a lot. I guess. Wow. Anyway.
Yeah, and the whole broken arm thing, I'm like, and they're just going to let him go. And I'm like, oh, that's right. They can fix a broken arm real easily.
Yeah.
Which, put a pin in that. I have a feeling next week I'm going to have some qualms about that.
Did they still use pins? Would they still use pins to fix broken arms in the future?
I don't think so.
No. No, don't put a pin in the broken arm, but put a pin in the thought of her healing it or Crusher fixing it so quickly.
So O'Brien on the bridge tosses Worf, shoots Ro and Riker, and we get to see angry Data. Like, everybody's flipping out. And my thought during all this, as cool as it looks, like, immediately no one's suspicious of Riker. Picard just totally trusts standing next to him and doesn't even be like, hey, these other 3 people you went down there with are acting funny. Maybe we should put you under observation just for a little bit till we see what happens.
Ooh, that's a good point.
Wow.
They eventually evaluate Riker's exclusion, but it takes them some time, and I just feel like it should have happened quicker.
I thought, didn't some of the possessed people get hit by phasers and it just like kind of didn't bother them?
Yeah.
How was that? I didn't understand that either.
They said they were immune to it somehow.
Okay.
I guess the power of the being possessing them was greater than the phaser blast.
It's got to have something to do with whatever the energy field they were using to shield the room or something. As I said, I wasn't paying close enough attention to how a lot of these things were working.
Yeah. We learned that Troy is Captain Bryce, Shumeroff or something of the USS.
Schumer, I think.
Schumer of the USS, or not USS, because this was pre-USS days, but early Starfleet vessel Essex. Mm-hmm. And that his Exo and Security were the other 2 possessions. First of all, why I mean, the broken arm, that just gives up their 4th person. Why doesn't their 4th crewman come with them? And who was it? And I want to know about them. That's kind of my alternate episode. What's going on with that 4th crewman? Why they decided broken arm was too much? Because we saw a 4th light. But then we also had like the total rogue Captain TOS story of a captain that wasn't really good enough, like good morality, driven crazy, which is cool. But then, I mean, not cool. It's been done in TOS, but it's a nice callback. Right. Except that wasn't really the thing, because at the end we find out no, it was aliens who tried to take over Captain Schumer and his crew, and then just posed as them. And I'm like, okay, another level of depth and complexity that maybe isn't needed, because TOS wouldn't have gone that complex. But at the same time, it's like, well, at least we don't have to think another captain was corrupt.
Right. I mean, that makes a lot more sense than. I mean, I did like that Worf was putting forth a theory, like that little conversation he was having with Picard, which I do remember for some reason. They have been disembodied for a couple of centuries. That might drive somebody crazy.
Yeah.
If psychology is even possible without chemistry and whatever.
It seemed to me, I mean, I guess this is the thing, like, I just kept wondering, if these are from Starfleet, if these are from Earth, why don't they just talk to them? It makes no sense that they're going homicidal and taking everybody hostage and all that. So that kind of made it make sense a little bit more.
Yeah, it would be like, hey, we're glad to see you. Here's the situation.
Yeah. Well, did they explain why the beings were in prison and who was in charge of that colony?
No, they were aliens from centuries ago.
I remember there being a sentence or so that they were talking about that, and I remember that I wasn't paying close enough attention to it, and I didn't back it up. I could have, and I should have thought about it, but it was roughly that. It was just, we're prisoners. It was like we're in the Phantom Zone or something.
I thought Zod was my first thought too.
Something like that.
Which, that does sound like with the electromagnetic field or whatever and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I thought that was interesting, and I would have liked to know more about. And even if it was a tell, not show. I mean, going back to, I should know the episode. The two old people, the older couple,
the X-Bridges.
The X-Bridges, and that guy's story at the end was just so great. A tell, not show that was great. I would have been okay with that here, because I thought that would have been more interesting 3 or 4 minutes than some of the extra hostage negotiation. As much as I thought that was fine and interesting, and the tension was good there. And I thought Cole Meany and like I said,
Rosalind Chow. Or are you talking about the other possessions?
Sorry, the other way. The other possessed people. All 3 of the people, like I said, the people that usually play sweet people get to be bad guys and devious and stuff. I thought, like I said, that was the most interesting thing. But that would.
I thought they could have played O'Brien and Keiko a little more for actual drama.
Yes. Yeah.
Something just seemed kind of stilted there from both sides, in my opinion. I mean, it's just this probably a sign of the times too, but
Yeah, and Ro was kind of wasted in this episode too. I mean, we don't get her for that many episodes, and she didn't have a lot to do.
I don't know that I wrote it down, but yeah, my thought the whole time was like, oh yeah, nope, it's here. Nobody beats the Ro. That's what I thought right off the bat. Like when she got bested, I'm like, this doesn't happen. I don't like this. I don't, and that's just a personal, like, I don't like this happening to my character I love.
Sure.
But
Ro, I mean, she's great, but she just had so little to do. This episode proves like they wanted to use her more and just have her there, whether she had a story or not.
Totally agree. Yeah.
But I like that we had Ro and O'Brien and Keiko because you round out your minor characters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Picard choking. That was some acting.
That was Star Trek stealing from Star Wars. That was very opening of New Hope. Yeah, the act before force choking became a thing. The actually picking up somebody, which I get. These guys had super strength too with their
apparent. Well, that wasn't Data holding him up.
Oh, you're right. It was Data. You're right.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. That makes more sense. Yep.
They came Ro and Geordi came so close to succeeding if Data hadn't stepped forward.
This might be going back to the bridge. Troy is standing over Worf, and she's very vulnerable to what I'll call a nut shot, and he doesn't take it, which I was very disappointed at. I know maybe in the early 90s we didn't do those to ladies. I know we do it now. I was thinking of 3 Billboards where Frances McDormand did it to three teenagers. And it's one of the funnier parts of the movie, and she got an Oscar for it. So I thought they should have done that there, but I understand it not happening, but
well, the Academy, the board, they look for chances to award nut shots when they can get away with it. Finally, that's what they really want. They won't do superhero movies, but they can't wait for those nut shots if they can.
Well, and it was also very inclusive because she nut shotted 2 boys and a girl. So, sorry, woman. No, it was a girl. They were high schoolers. So either way, but
this sounds more like a Lower Decks conversation than Next Gen.
Yes, it does. It does sound like a Lower Decks.
Got my Ritos t-shirt on for you Patreon people.
That's awesome.
Yeah, this is
I really enjoyed and thought you guys had to have picked up on this. The Enterprise is orbiting the planet and they hover over the South Pole. But for some reason, the Enterprise is sitting under the planet. Still right side up to our view as if it's like flying under the planet.
Oh, I missed
if it's in orbit, the bottom of the Enterprise should be facing the planet. So either you get the Enterprise upside down or have it above the planet and just say this is the south end of the planet.
You're totally right. I
missed it.
Looked at it.
Oh, that's awesome.
Didn't note it, and that makes me think of
multiple shots.
If you guys have gone down the terrible wormhole or YouTube hole that is people that believe the Earth is flat. That's their proof, is that if you got an airplane and you fly south of the equator, your plane should be upside down.
Wait, what?
That's their proof that the Earth is flat.
I'm trying to think of how that would work.
They don't understand that gravity's pulling to the center.
Yes.
The center of the ball, not just
right.
Yeah, I mean that had to be a visual effects person that was not getting that space has different reference points. So why was Data picking on Worf so bad? What did Worf do to him? Like, this guy just remember the Klingons were the enemy or something?
Something like that. It seems like there must have been some rivalry, and this is going back to what Stephen was saying about some tell not show or something, because I mean I was unclear on whether these aliens would normally have a body of some sort, if they've been transferred into these little points of light, or is that their natural form. And
I was wondering at that point also, like, is this, and they never developed this part of it too. I'm starting to like this episode less the more we talk about it. But I were the aliens completely in control? Was there a tussle going on there? Because I think, for like to your point, Jimmy, I think the Keiko O'Brien thing, Keiko O'Brien as I call him, would have been more interesting. And I thought they were trying to get there, like her kind of like, I can't believe you're doing this. But we never really got to a thing where like you're in there somewhere with either of them. But I thought that's where they're trying to get. And again, the kryptonite or the kind of thing I talked about before, where it's like, oh, some character things are going to come out of them being under this control, and none of that was really developed. It was just.
It seemed like they could read their host's memories, but that their personality was completely in control.
Yes. Yeah.
Deanna mentioned that at the end. She was actually explaining to Riker that she was there. She could watch, but she couldn't control anything.
Right.
And
which made the O'Brien Keiko interaction even weirder, because it's like, how does it take you a minute to realize who it is and all that if you can access that?
That's also my first marriage.
Well, that means that they probably.
I couldn't control anything.
That means that they probably have to be looking for certain types of information, and maybe there is some slight communication between the host and the inhabitor, and he was probably fascinated by that relationship. Is why it was like, oh, what is this? I feel that
Let's do fashion.
Fashion.
So Keiko is way too put together for somebody with an infant. Just not realistic at all.
What would make you think that? Do you have any examples of people who might not be put together from?
When you've got a brand new baby. Speaking as someone with a 7-week-old in my house right now, which is certainly part of why we took such a long break, that and holidays and whatever, but they don't go. This is why I found this episode super unrealistic. They don't go 2 hours without eating. They don't go an hour without a diaper change. And she is not only well groomed and makeup and hair done, but the entire time she's a hostage, she does not change that diaper or feed that baby. There's no diaper bag there. There's nothing to help her care for the baby. And these guys aren't letting her do this. So that part of it was completely not at all believable.
Well, how old is this baby though?
Months, definitely.
Yeah.
They might have learned by now.
No. Spoken by someone who does not live with a baby.
Okay, but up to that point, though, the baby wouldn't stop crying, so there's probably one of the reasons.
Well, she said it was scared, but then it did stop crying. And it wasn't eating, and it wasn't, yeah.
It's starting to pass out,
Not a fashion note, but a baby note. They kept getting in her face like, you need to shut up that baby and silence that baby. Why not just shoot them with the phaser on stun?
The baby?
Yeah. These guys are terrible people. They're willing to do whatever they got to do. Yeah. Why are they worried about this baby making noise? Shoot the baby, set for stun. Yeah.
To be fair,
my mind kept going to the end of MASH, the series.
I thought of that too. Oh my god!
Hawkeye smothering the baby.
Shut that chicken up.
I wasn't going to do that, but
that is like the only thing I know about MASH is that scene. Watching that with my parents, I think when it was airing, and it's like, shut that chicken up. Like okay, that whole thing.
I may have brought this up back when we were doing TOS, but whenever McCoy would knock somebody out with a little, the little spray or whatever, and they'd pass out or whatever. Me and I'll reference my first wife again. We were always like, that would be the greatest thing for parents with their kids, like on a plane or whatever, where it's like, man, I just can't get this kid to go to sleep, to be quiet. You just have that little, and they're out, and then you go on with the rest of your flight. A little injection there, but which they could have used here too. But I still say I still couldn't believe they didn't use it. But yeah. But I'm glad they didn't choke. No, I'm not going to say that. I'm glad they didn't kill the chicken.
My note about that was, again, that's one of the few notes I took for this episode was maybe they should just put the baby out in the hallway, drop the shield for a second and just set it out in the hallway. And
I think they should just kick on the baby go.
That
they
too.
have no hostages. That's more trouble than it's worth.
Right, yeah. Exactly, yeah. I did have one fashion note, which was Crusher's hair in this episode is an 11 out of 10. And this may go back to our original point at the beginning of the episode, which was like, oh, I haven't seen Gates McFadden's hair in 2 months. I haven't checked it out. So maybe it just struck me that way, but it was on point. It always, but another notch.
You don't follow her TikTok where she shows her hair every morning?
I do not. I guess I need to.
I don't know if it's a thing, but I would watch it if it was.
I would. At some point I wrote down, aren't they making Picard choose who they're going to let kill?
Something like that.
He's supposed to choose whether they're going to kill Worf or Keiko.
Yeah, I wrote down it's Sophie Picard's choice.
See, I feel like that's easy. Just say Worf.
I was gonna say, what would you do? You already have an answer. There you go.
I mean, one is ready. It's a good day to die, and the other one is the mother of a newborn.
Yeah, that's true.
It's not a hard decision. I definitely think stalling is the right move instead of just saying Worf. Yeah. When it comes down to it, it's not a hard decision.
A or B? I'll take C.
This is not the trolley problem. We'll say that.
Exactly.
I was really surprised how the aliens just gave up at the end because I felt like they didn't have to. And then they're like, and don't come back by this planet. I'm like, no, you want them to come back so you can try to get on again. Why are you telling them not to come back?
Yeah.
Like they said,
we'll get you next time.
Nobody comes and bothers us again, except we want to be bothered.
I'll get you next time, Spider-Man. Yeah. It was a very hollow threat. I was surprised to see that they could control so many functions on the ship from a computer in 10 forward.
Well, it's because it's Guinan's bar. If it wasn't Guinan's bar, they wouldn't have that kind of access.
Hey, well, also during all this,
that's who I'm going to have a drink with. I'll talk about during the rankings.
I mean, that computer being there, or them being able to access that, to me is like one, unsafe, and or hilarious that somebody could be putting in a drink order. Got 3 Long Island iced teas. Okay, and then they blow up a. They actually shoot phasers.
Well, Riker
the escape pod.
Riker had it pod set up to be a second battle bridge, so when he's got night duty, he's down there.
That makes sense. It also makes me think of the space knots, as I've talked about, or the space nuts that, did you say lunch? Launch? I thought you said lunch. I thought you said launch. And they launched the escape pods from 10 forward, but somebody just really wanted to be LT.
The strategy of having them inhabit O'Brien, and from a writing standpoint, at least for the conflict, I enjoyed that when they tried to outwit him with that whole shuttle transporter thing. He was like, "Hey, I'm on to you. Give me all the controls, even the ones in the shuttle." Ooh, we almost got him. That whole so the value of having O'Brien of all people. Or, having access to his knowledge, which is what I was also going to mention, maybe is because he was there in 10 forward, he was able to figure out how to do it rather than, he might have to sign in as himself or something, or,
I did enjoy, is not the right word, but I did appreciate that, the first couple attempts to save things didn't work out,
Yeah.
Roe and Riker in the crawl space or whatever and all that stuff. So I thought that was cool.
Keith was talking about the writing. This was story by Paul Rubin and Maurice Hurley. We've talked plenty about Maurice Hurley. Mm-hmm. Much of it not good. Right. Paul Rubin has 3 IMDb credits. One is a writer for this. One is an actor in the 1986 film Necropolis, which I've never heard of.
And Pee-wee's
Playhouse. And then he plays himself in a Just for Laughs. I don't know. And then the teleplay was by Brannon Braga, Herbert Wright, and Renee Balser. Obviously, we've talked about Brannon Braga before. Mm-hmm. Renee Balser, this was his only Star Trek teleplay by, so only Star Trek credit, but has written for Law & Order Criminal Intent, Law & Order LA, regular Law & Order UK, so Law & Order writer. And Herbert Wright was a producer on The Next Generation, so that's how Herbert was involved in the show, was all season, not just this episode. So it sounds like there were a lot of hands in the writing of this, and that might have been part of why it was so messy. Yeah. Directed by one of our regulars, David Livingston. Who was your annoyance? Oh, Keith. Who was your annoyance?
I'm the annoyance. My annoyance was Keith.
No. Who was your annoyance in the Masterpiece Society?
I'm going to go with the whoever the right-hand guy was on the planet, who was these outsiders, get them out of here, how dare you,
You're talking about Ron Canada.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah.
That's who Steven picked, and I was offended on Ron Canada's behalf.
It was a necessary part for I will say that one of the good things about how that all worked was he was a good red herring. Yeah. I liked that the episode didn't devolve into violence of that sort. You're expecting him to try to do something physically to sabotage them, or it was none of that. It was all just intrigue and cerebral kinds of, you know what I'm saying. So,
who was your annoyance and conundrum, Keith? Was it McDuff?
Kieran
That is just a, what do you call those? A really tough choice. Something hard to. No.
Are you saying it's a conundrum?
No, I'm not saying that. Why would I say that?
No, what's the word?
Actually, man, what was that one again? I've already forgotten how that relates to what the story was.
Forget everything.
Yeah. Okay.
We both chose McDuff.
I guess so. Yeah, there's really not much else to work with there.
Who was your annoyance in this week's episode?
Mine is Evil O'Brien, or whoever the guy was occupying O'Brien's body. So
That's a good choice.
I did not care for him. He was.
Yeah. I didn't care for Evil Data and his obsession with hurting Morph, so that's my choice.
Yeah, that's fair.
You going with Evil Troy? Keith, to round it out?
There's nothing left. Actually, I'm kind of tempted to do that. I mean, just the one who was orchestrating all this just let's go with Evil O'Brien.
We didn't even bother to learn their names. We're just calling them Evil. That's fine.
Yeah.
Keith, who did you have a drink with in the Masterpiece Society?
Oh, probably the doctor from the planet, or the scientist from the planet.
Mm-hmm.
Hannah?
Yeah.
It's unanimous. Who did you want to have a drink with in Conundrum?
You're going to have
a tough time.
That's it.
An enigma. What? I'm running. I should have pulled up the thesaurus by now.
It's a quandary. It's a real quandary.
Yeah. I already used that one. Didn't I? I thought I did. No, I said pickle. No, quandary. Yeah, that quandary's right.
Quandary's a completely different kind of food.
Steve and I both went with Roe for Conundrum.
That does make sense. Going with Picard for now, I think.
Okay. Who are you having a drink with this week?
Mine is Evil Troy. I really liked her a lot. This will not surprise any listener of this podcast. I liked Evil Troy. Very close runner-up, not Evil Crusher. She was right there, but I'm going with Evil Troy. Keith?
I thought I was answering for this one when I was saying Picard.
Oh, Picard wasn't your Conundrum choice?
I thought that was last week.
What was Conundrum? Wait, that's a memory one. So
yes.
Why did
McDuff succeeded in wiping Keith's memory at the end of watching it?
I'll have to come back to that one. I don't know why that.
So difficult.
So you wanted Picard for this episode just to ask him why he made the choices he made?
Something like that.
See, I want Guinan to be like, how'd you stay home this day? And what were you doing? And also, why do your panels control the entire show?
Damn it, that one's better. That one's much better.
Of course it is, but you can't have it. It's mine.
I did have an alternate episode, although it's kind of just what describes the episode. Dog Space Afternoon. And it's really just some guys who they don't want to even take over the ship. They just want to get money and then get safe passage to Risa. Isn't Risa the pleasure planet? Yeah.
Yes.
They just want a shuttle and they want a bunch of credits and safe passage to Risa.
Well, ranking the episode, we're going to start at the bottom. Better or worse than Hero Worship? That's Data takes the kid.
I think I like this better.
I think I'm going to say worse.
I'm inclined to go worse too, but it's just, I think just in looking back.
Here I remember where the kid tries to become Data, right?
Yeah.
All right, you know what? I'm going to recant my previous statement. I'm going to go under.
That was last place for the season, so we're putting this at last.
Yeah. I think I'm okay with that. And again, I didn't hate this episode. I just didn't.
No, it was a very mediocre episode. I think in past seasons it might have ended in the middle, but the show's gotten strong enough now. It deserves to go to the bottom. 15 of 15. Next week, we are going to be watching Ethics, because we need another generic title that could apply to many episodes.
It makes more sense, at least.
It does. It does. I think it will.
IMDb says, after an accident that leaves him no longer able to walk, Worf asks Riker to help him commit suicide.
Well, geez, I guess that's not much of a spoiler, is it? I mean, that's just like, here's the whole entire...
I mean, that happens pretty early in the episode, so...
It does.
Also, suicide is painless, I hear. But we'll talk about that next week. Since we made MASH references earlier, I feel like
No, that was pretty good.
That's perfect callback.
Until then, live long.
And be comfortable in your own skin and prosper.
If you can remember to do it.
It's tricky.
It's All Been Done presents.
Who's got the time?